This is a subscriber-only episode. Good evening, and welcome to Dan Bain's Sleepy Time Mumbles, a podcast you can miss. I am Dan Bain, and every episode I improvise a low-stakes podcast for you to fall asleep to. Tonight, friends, I shan't be improvising a podcast at all. Instead, I have edited together 3 thematically linked past episodes into an Omnibus Edition. So, if the usual half an hour of mumbling is not powerful enough to slake your hunger for sleep-inducing audio narration, then hopefully around 90 odd minutes will be. The theme of this evening's omnibus is, of course, conversations. This is a conversation omnibus, most of which take the form of a radio phone-in show. I've revisited this model several times over the years, and although it's a little more work than just talking, narrating, the alternating dialogue of it is an amusing challenge for me, and hopefully a restful experience for you, because having done a little revisiting of some of these to make sure that, say, the audio levels are consistent across all of the episodes, in this process of revisiting them, I have discovered them to all be increasing dull. There's even an episode from season 1 in here, The Ghost of Whispering Pete. I opened up the original file and I could not recognize the workflow. What maniac put that together? I looked back across the chasms of years since that time, and I did not recognize myself. Why was the reverb audio baked in rather than, I don't know. I can't believe I was working so destructively. Nonetheless, I must add, if you're new to the podcast, of course, Season 1, what's that? It is all, of course, now for subscribers only. if you would like to dip into the forbidden treasures that are Season 1, a time of wild experimentation where I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I was just throwing things at the wall and seeing what stuck. Also, I was releasing an episode a week, and that makes you go crazy. Anyway, if you would like to experience that now that I've sold it so strongly, you can, of course, by subscribing. Thank you to the subscribers who help keep the 50 most recent episodes ad-free for everyone, forever. Why not join them? He said, suggestively. But not now. That can wait. For now, turn off your screens, put down your phone, close your eyes. Now it's time to be mumbled to sleep, omnibus style. Welcome to another iteration of the Sleepy Time Mumbles in Conversation series. A long-standing tentpole style episode. A regular feature of the podcast that props up the more whimsical content, giving it a strong journalistic integrity that otherwise might be lacking. Those with the investigative mindset, I believe, are always particularly grateful to these long-form conversations. Fans of the humanities, of course, as well. For it is in conversation that our character is truly revealed. And so too, are things also. This week I had the pleasure to have a conversation with a gentleman caller. You know, like from the South, like in a Tennessee Williams play. You know, a gentleman caller, gonna go get a job at the shoe factory, but is real happy to come over and have a chat with your crippled daughter. That kind of gentleman caller. You know, the kind I'm talking about. If they have a name, surely they do. It's probably Tom. There were less names back in the post-World War II American South. Cat on a hot tin roof. Old glass menagerie. And, streetcar named Desire. All the faves of the traditional American theatre. Okay, that's enough building it up. Let's get into the call. Let's have the call. I'm gonna make the call now. Okay. Through the magic of editing, you won't have to listen to the dialing, nor the ringtones. When next you hear my voice, I'll be in conversation with the gentleman caller.
Hello?
Tom, is that you?
Why, yes. Who is calling, may I ask?
This is Dan Bain from Sleepy Time Mumbles. We set up a time to have a little conversation, an interview.
What for? What is this? What is this in service of?
It's in. You remember we had a conversation about the podcast. The podcast that I do.
Oh, you're the sleep boy.
Yes, that's right. That's certainly what they know me on the streets as.
Well, that's I can certainly think of a worse moniker for a gentleman to have. But I can also, and I say this frankly, I can also think of several better ones.
Sure. You can call me whatever you like. I don't really mind. If you...
Well, I shall call you Mr. Bain, on account of that the two of us don't really have a relationship as such, and it seems a little forward and forthright to go ahead with calling you some sort of nickname or personal moniker. This is a type that a friend might call you. I don't think we're friends, sir.
No, but that's not why we're here. Of course, you call me whatever you like, that's fine. I wondered if we could start the interview, if that works for you, if this is still a good time.
Have we not already started? I'm firmly of the mindset that if a man is in a conversation with someone he does not have a strong association with, questions are being asked, then surely in some way that is an interview. Do you not agree, sir?
Sure. Yes. Okay. Cool. We've already started. Great. So I guess I'm most interested in talking about your time post World War II, but I suppose those events are in some ways influenced by the.
Just spit it out, boy. What are you trying to say?
I suppose they're kind of influenced by the time that you spent overseas serving your country. And I wondered if you had any insight into that.
What do you mean inside? That's not even really a question. You've posited a area of discussion, but from what point am I supposed to jump off with a reply? I can't just give my potted history of the entirety of my service in both European and Pacific theaters. Unless is that actually what you would like? Because I fear that will take up a goodly amount of your time. Time that is perhaps better spent discussing my work at the shoe factory.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, I suppose the question is, did in your service time, did you gain a greater appreciation for shoes? And if so, do you think that led you to where you find yourself today?
Yes.
Okay. Would you care to elaborate at all?
You've answered your own question, boy. That's another terrible technique in terms of being an interviewer. You spend so long posing the question that by the time you actually got to the question mark of the sentence, you'd already really discussed everything that was of possible interest within the topic. All I had to then do is either confirm or negate your hypothesis. I'm confirming it. Yes, my time in the service did give me a great opportunity to observe footwear in the harshest of conditions. So yes, I do have a high interest in them being high quality, influenced by that time of my life. What else would you like to know?
No, nothing else.
On that? Well, see, that's another poor choice you've made. You gotta follow up. Don't they teach children anything these days? You gotta follow up. I answer a question, and then you take it to the next point. You go a little bit deeper into the answer. For example, what was the specific moment, Tom, that you observed this, right? Specifics. At the moment, you're working in generalities. Whereas what creates a compelling story is going into specifics. So I think, and I don't want to tell you how to suck eggs, I'm sure you have a whole heap of success with whatever it is you do. I don't understand it, and I don't pretend to, and I don't really care to. I'm sure, though, it's clearly keeping you out of mischief and off the street. And so, for that, God bless it. But otherwise, I'm surprised that, I'm surprised that you are capable of achieving anything.
Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, it seems like we've kind of got off on the wrong...
We haven't got off on the wrong foot, boy. But not long. Not long. It's just that you don't seem to really know what you're doing. And I'm a busy man. So, if you have, did you prepare for this interview? Did you do a little research into myself? And did you prepare some questions?
No, I didn't. I just... No, I just tend to wing it.
Oh. Well, that is a terrible habit. You need to get out of that immediately. Because no good comes of that.
Look, I don't want to tell you what you do or don't know, but I've been winging it for a considerable amount of time. The whole kind of premise of the show that I'm interviewing you for is that it is, well, a great majority of it is, well, the entirety of it is just winged, improvised, made up on the spot, off the top of the dome, top of the head, off the cuff, drop of the hat. You know? So, I don't want to be rude, but perhaps some corrections might be due. Might need to issue some errata on this particular...
Look, son. You clearly got a gift of the gab, and I can appreciate that. But irrespective of your ability to turn a phrase in a pretty manner without planning it ahead, there are many forms that benefit from pre-planning the execution of what you're about to attempt to do, and the long-form interview is definitely one of them. You think David Frost went to interview President Nixon with just like, oh, I'll wing it. I'll wing it, I'll see what happens. No, he had a structure, he had a concept underneath the whole thing, whereas you, sir, you're just approaching it with a lackadaisical approach, isn't it? It's lazy. It's a lazy approach. You haven't made any effort. Have you? No, sir.
Okay, well, that's unfair. I've definitely given it some thought. For example, here's a follow-up question. In the shoe business, what's your favorite part of it?
Oh, I see what you're doing. That's good. That's a good. See, you're getting the idea of the whole establishment here now. You meant to ask small questions that I can elaborate on. What is my favorite part of the process of making a shoe? I think probably for me it's the adhesion of the upper onto the sole. That's the moment where it becomes a shoe, truly. You just got two separate parts, two separate discrete items. But on that moment of connection, when you join the two of them together, when the sole meets the upper, when the upper meets the sole, then, and only then, suddenly you got yourself a shoe. That's it. That's a shoe you've made. That's not just two separate components. It's not just a piece of rubber and a piece of leather that have both been shaped. They got their specifics, they got their specificities, of course. But now, when you join them together, when you thread them, glue them, bring them together, obviously put it in, soul in, but that's not the important part. When you join those two parts together, that's the magic. That's when it becomes more than the sum of the parts, right? Becomes a new thing. Becomes a shoe.
Out of curiosity, do you wear your own shoes that you've kind of made yourself, or shoes that come off the? I mean, is there a? Sorry, I'm doing the thing again. I'm extemporizing too further into the question, and as we all know, that means there's less room for you to give your own answer. It's effectively an open and closed question because I've done the detail myself. Because I love the sound of my own voice.
That's right, boy. That's why you do it. That's very astute. That's very self-aware. There's a great understanding of who you are as a person. And not just that, but also what's wrong with you as a person. So, my congratulations to you. Now, in answer to your question, do I only wear shoes that have been made by me? Yes, only wear shoes made by myself. Why? Because I can only trust myself in this world. And that when that narrows down to what I'm good at, which is making footwear, I'm like, okay, I can trust myself to make my own footwear. And also, I can trust myself to get to work on time, keep myself fed, make sure the dog goes outside. These are the things that I rely on myself to do. I make my bed in the morning. Some people don't I make my bed in the morning. That's how I know I'm still alive when it's time to go to bed at night. I get in a freshly made bed every night. And by the time I get in it, I forgot that I made it in the morning. So it's like someone else made it. It's like I'm getting hotel service, room service. Please make up this room. It's like I hung a little wooden cardboard sign on the door handle and said, please make up this room. Someone's made up the room on my behalf for me. I love that. Because as I said, by the time I get to bedtime, I'm a different man from whom I was in the morning. I'm a totally different man. Awesome.
Hey, that feels really wise in its own way. Thanks. Hey, what do you reckon about the girl with the club foot? Do you reckon that's a goer or probably not? Hey. Okay. Sorry, that was a bit personal. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show.
That's not a problem. I'll do it anytime. Or we could make 100 of these episodes.
I'm not sure they're that popular.
Well, you know your business, son. So, anytime you might need me, you just let me know.
Okay, well, I will. I'll do that. Thank you. And I feel like we've really all learnt a lot today, so thanks very much.
You're welcome. Good night.
And good night to you. It is a privilege, an honour, a pleasure, and a delight to welcome onto the show a major figure from both the past of my life and yours. Someone who perhaps only left a small impression on our lives, but nonetheless was an important part in the tapestry of our existence. It is my pleasure to welcome to the show your former high school PE teacher. That's physical education. If you are based in the Antipodes, you'll know this, but for those of you on the North American continent, of course I mean your gym coach or gym class teacher. Yeah. Or if you're in the United Kingdom, PT, physical training, teaching, physical training teaching, that's PTT. Please join me in a restrained Sleepy Time Mumbles welcome for your high school PE teacher. Welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on your radio program. I've never been on one of these before. Never really been interviewed. So, yeah, I'll just hope to do a good job. Yeah. So how will I listen to this?
Well, it's a podcast, so it gets downloaded on the internet. You can just on like podcasts.
Yeah, well, I'll probably get my nephew to just download it from the cyber for me. So yeah. Yeah. What?
So I guess we'll start off the perhaps the obvious question.
Oh, right. You're gonna ask questions.
Yeah, that's pretty much how an interview goes.
Yeah. Right. It's just as I said, I've never really done what.
An interview. You've never been interviewed.
Oh.
What about for a job?
Oh. Yeah, once. Yeah. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, for my job interview. Yeah. One.
Great. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that. It seems like there's a lot to unpack there. How did you when did you know that the life for you was going to be PE teacher?
Yeah. Well, I was always good at running. As a boy, just quite swift on the old legs. Good at short distance, 100 meters, middle distance, 400 to 1200 meters, long distance, 3000. Yep. Athletics day, school, good at running, and yeah, I don't know, if you're good at running, that's really it's just an all access pass to sports, really. Most of the sports need running as a kind of key component. All the proper ones, anyway. And so, if you know, as a young fella, you've got a bit of spring in your step, bit of pep. Stand a good chance in being in all the teams for pretty much any and every sport you could want to be on. So yeah.
Great. And so from these humble beginnings as just someone who was a fast runner. Where was the point that what clearly was a passion for performing sports translated into the desire to pass on those skills, to educate, to move into that sort of field? Is there a specific point?
Have you done this before? These are, quite tricky questions. I don't know if there was a specific point. I mean, I was in under 25 Canterbury reps. That's representative rugby. That was as far as it went. And then, but if you go to do a 1-year diploma at a sports academy, then you can teach PE if you're a good runner. And to be honest, I'd had a couple of injuries. Rotator cuff in the shoulder, not in great shape, and the Achilles. That's the tendon. Had a bit of tenderitis in that. That's when the tendon's quite tender. And so I mean, still good at running, but mostly social running now, not non-competitive. I could get a good time at the city to surf. That. You ever done this?
No, I've never run as an adult in any sort of competitive way. I've done it for utility, or I guess sometimes in a performative context, but never purely for running to compete.
Well, that's probably your problem then, isn't it?
I don't think I don't think there is a problem.
No, I'm not saying that you've, that there's something wrong with you because you didn't race someone. I'm just saying that maybe that's the reason why you've got no passion for it, because passion is 9/10 of the game. It's mindset.
I thought it was because you were good at running.
I mean that. Yeah, that's part of it, but also mindset. And being strong, I guess, is also part of it. How many chin-ups can you do?
I don't know, maybe 3. Is that a lot, or is that good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, that's not very good. I can do 100 unassisted, just with no breaks. Well, do you want to come over to my house and feel my muscles? They're really big.
No, don't. Thank you. Great. So, you were saying you transitioned from a semi-professional career into a more educational one. I imagine there must be, a moment where that's quite difficult. That idea of moving between worlds, particularly from the desire of professionalism to then, do you regret that? Is that something you look back on and wish it went another way?
Oh, I mean, there's no one in this country that doesn't want to be in the All Blacks.
I mean, that's a pretty bold. That's quite a big statement. Saying everyone in this country wants to be in the All Blacks.
Yeah. I mean, of course they do. Why wouldn't they?
Because they don't want to play rugby for a living.
Yeah, but who doesn't want to do that? Like, you'd be in the All Blacks if if I said to you right now, do you want to be in the All Blacks? You wouldn't say no.
Well, I mean, no, I suppose that I don't suppose I would. I mean, I guess, yeah. If you could magically make me be in the All Blacks right now, yeah, I suppose, yep, I would. But that's not because I get to play rugby. It's because of the perks. I mean, you can just do you want to, so much in this world is driven by, profile, and the higher your profile, the more access you get to things, and the easiest way in this country to be high profile is to be a professional sportsman. So I guess no, I wouldn't turn that down, but not, I think, for the reasons that you're
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because you want it. So there you go. And I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions at you or whatever, or say that you're a certain type of person, but you don't really strike me as being someone who likes sport particularly, and you'd still do it. So I just saying, I guess I'm right.
I mean, you do. That's certainly a compelling point that I will that I'll have to consider.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. Well, you do that.
Okay, I will. But we were talking about the difficulty of transitioning between kind of worlds. How did you find that?
Yeah, pretty low time. To be fair, lot of kids these days don't really want to do PE. They'd rather play their, on the Game Boy or the Nintendo or whatever. Yeah, so quite hard to get them enthused about sports, particularly if they're unfit. Because there's quite a it's quite hard to do any running if you're not good at it. And the program is quite geared towards running, and also throwing. Quite a bit of throwing involved. And if you haven't done much running or throwing, then it can be a bit of a struggle for the youths. When I was a boy, you just did what you were told. I got told run over there, and so I'd do it as fast as I could. But nowadays it's a bit more. Got to kind of negotiate. Got to negotiate with them, and don't really have time for that. Just I'll throw the ball, you go get it. Bloody heck. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to. Yeah, sorry about that. It's the language. Your language there. Sorry about that.
There's a wide variety of different sports and activities that kind of all have to be put into the physical education curriculum. I guess two-part question. Do you have a favourite? What really, what lights you up? And secondly, is there too much on offer?
You blooming have done this before, haven't you? You've got all sorts of blooming spicy questions. Far out. Okay. First one, is there a favourite? Definitely like running. So that's your athletics, from the Greek word, Parthenon. Where they did their the athletics. Or cricket, or obviously rugby. Or cricket. Netball for the ladies, obviously. Basketball's quite popular. Some soccer. Gaining a bit of popularity these days. And then, your softball. And then your weird athletics. So your discus, your shot put, your high jump, long jump, hurdles. That's probably my favourites.
So that seemed like a list of almost every major sporting code.
Nah, I missed out heaps.
Okay. So I guess that is there too much demand on what is, I assume, a fairly limited PE time, with the number of skills that or different codes that are being asked to be explored?
I mean, it's just fundamentals, really, isn't it? Like, if you're good at running, kind of good at everything, aren't you? Apart from canoeing. It just doesn't help at all. Doesn't matter how fast you can run in a canoe. Yeah. I didn't even mention that, canoeing. God, I think it's a waste of time. But, anyway. Yeah, there's not enough time in the day, obviously. And you can't make them do PE all day, every day. Because there's all these other... Probably too many subjects in the whole... curriculum. Yeah, it's probably... I'd suggest... Maybe we could halve them, put more, just give more options for rope climbing and high diving. I've got this idea for replace the ladders on the high dive board with ropes, and it's kind of got a bit of an obstacle course kind of feel to it, because high diving's about kind of controlled precision and rotation of body in space. And wouldn't it be interesting if you're also suffering from muscle fatigue from climbing a rope before you had to do that? I mean, wouldn't that be interesting? Liven it up a bit. Yeah. But there's no time for those kind of experimental sports. So, yeah. What was the question?
I think you've answered it. Where do you see the role of sports, physical education in school? Where do you see that leading in the next, 10 to 15 years?
Probably there'll just be more of it from some people and less of it from other people. I think that some people will be really into sport. Like, if they're good at running, I reckon they'll be more into it. But I think that what's mostly happening is that if you're not good at running, you tend to be heading in another direction away from it, and I reckon there'll probably just be there'll just be more and more of that. That'd be my prediction for the future of it.
Any regrets?
Oh, did you hear about the drinking? Did you? Oh, you're not. No regrets. Just some. Yes, it's good.
Whispering Pete, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy, haunting schedule to have a little talk to us.
It's fine. I didn't have too much on today, so I'm happy to talk a little into your talking box machine.
That's great. I'm wondering if, to begin, you could tell our listeners
a little bit about what your life was like before you became a ghost.
Oh, yeah, I think I could do that. So, where to begin? Well, I suppose I was, what you call a cowboy.
A difficult job. The high life of the prairie dweller. No doubt a high risk and high excitement occupation.
Not particularly. I mostly rode around on a horse. Just skirting around the outskirts of the flock. Looking at cows. Looking at the horizon. Thinking about how comfy my boots were. I was always real proud of them boots. I paid a good price for them, and they were well made. Had a nice sole to them. Not like some soles of shoes, where you can just feel every stone you stand on. No, these boots, no sir. These boots, I wore them day and night. I'll never take them off because I was afraid someone might take them while I was asleep. So I only ever took them off when I took a bath.
Oh, and I suppose that was fairly infrequent.
Incredibly infrequent. I very rarely would take myself a bath, perhaps on a annual basis.
Hard times in the Old West.
I don't know about that. There were good times for what they were. I made enough to get by, keep myself well fed, buy myself a drink every now and then, and get to spend some quality time in the great outdoors under that all-encompassing sky. Kind of sky, you know, that just goes on forever. Sky as far as the eye can see, in all directions. The horizon very far away, so you could barely see it. The horizon was over the horizon, if you know what I mean. I'm saying you couldn't see the horizon on account of that. It was over the horizon. Yep, that's... You weren't there. I was. That's what it was. That's what it was like.
Living on the frontier, at the very edge of civilization, that must have been quite a thrilling prospect, to be on the forging edge of civilization as it pushed out into what I suppose to you seemed like an unknown wilderness.
I suppose. But we had a little town with all the conveniences that one could hope for once the railroad arrived. Once the railroad arrived, stores be popping up like gators at a picnic. They're just here and there. You go past what used to be an empty lot, and suddenly it's a store. There's a general store where one could buy general goods, flour, nails, hats, firearms, dynamite. Then there was a horse shop. We called it a horse shop where you buy a horse. I was, yeah, you could buy a horse right there. Also, any kind of general supplies for a horse. So, in a way, the horse shop was like a general store. But instead of a general, it was general goods for horses. Saddles, stirrups, spurs, shoes. Shoes for horses, not for people. Rope for tying up a horse. Reins. All sorts. Nails for a horse's hoof shoe. We used to call them hoof shoes, so as they didn't get confused with foot shoes. There's a coffin shop and general undertakery, an undertakery, where the undertaker worked. They bury you in a coffin by the preacher's church. The preacher's house that's next to the preacher's church, and a graveyard next to the preacher's house, which is next to the preacher's church. There's a railroad station where the trains would stop, and also you could buy yourself a train ticket if you wanted to get out of there, but I certainly did not want to get out of there on account of I was content with my time and my lot in life. Also, mining supply store, as some folk seem to think there was a potential for gold, but I never saw anything like that. I suppose if you're on the back of a horse, it is sometimes hard to see the ground as you are some distance up from it. My horse was called Sandy May. That was her name. And I loved that horse. She took me everywhere I wanted to go. All I had to do was jump up on board and pull the reins in a direction I wanted her to go, and just give her a little G up, and then she'd just G up on out of there. That's what she'd do. I'd give her a carrot sometime if it was a special occasion, but mostly she'd just eat hay.
or nibble at some grass if we were out in the wilds. Sure, self-sufficient that way, and you can't say that for a train. If you just stop a train, it's not going to feed itself. Even if there's coal lying on the ground, it's not going to stop and have a little nibble. You got to feed that in yourself. Tell us a little about how you ended up being a ghost. Well, first of all, in order to become a ghost, one must shuffle off of this mortal coil. You can't be a ghost if you're still alive. I believe that is against the rules. So, first of all, one has to. Do you feel uncomfortable speaking about the method, the means by which you died? No, I'm not. I'm not shy about it. You seem hesitant. No, I got my foot caught in a rock. And then another rock fell when I was trying to pull that foot out. You know? Well, I guess what happened, my foot got stuck in a rock. I was climbing up on some rocks to get a vantage point, you see, to be able to see a little further than one can. Even mounted on the back of a horse, you're only so far off the ground. You're further off than a man, but you could be higher. So I was trying to find a cattle beast. That's what we called them, cattle beasts. This particular cattle beast was a cow, but we had all sorts of cattle beasts. I was trying to find it. We were one down, probably just wandered off. That happened a lot, you see. If there's nothing to tie a cow to a place, if they're not emotionally attached to it, they'll just wander off. That was my job, to go find them when they wander off. Well, I couldn't see it anywhere, so I thought I'd climb up on a rock to get a vantage. And my foot got stuck in the rock. Now, I could have taken my boot off, but I don't take my boots off. That's not the kind of man I am. I keep my boots on all the time, unless you're going to have a bath. Exactly, and I wasn't in the mood for a bath. I'd already had one in the last 6-month period. So, I suppose I struggled about some. And my struggles offset some other rocks which were precariously balanced. Not deliberately, no one had balanced them precariously, just the nature of by which rocks maneuver themselves had put them in a precipitous location. Them rocks fell on me, and then I was a goner. I was done for. But then what happened? Well, I don't know what happened. You ever drink so much liquor you black out? It was a little like that, I suppose. Oh, then I returned to my consciousness, yet I had not returned to my corporeal form. I was as you see me now before you, semi-translucent, a slight shimmer to my complexion. I was non-corporeal. I see. Well, you do see, 'cause that's what I look like. Anyways, so then I was a ghost. Sandy Mae ran away on account of, although she was a brave girl, it wasn't in her job description to face up to what I guess appeared to her as somewhat supernatural threats. I couldn't even give her a carrot on account of I did not at that point possess the ghostly ability to manipulate solid objects within the realms of the living. So started to walk. I tell you what though, at least so my foot wasn't stuck no more. I had to leave my body behind. I had to leave my boots behind. Although I did have still a spiritual approximation of the boots attached to my feet, as you can see here. I walked across the desert. I walked back to town. I walked straight to the undertaker's office. I said to him, "You best put me in the ground." Well, he said to me, "Well, we don't put ghosts on the ground, we put bodies on the ground." So I was left at something of an impasse, as I was unsure what to do. Well, you must have done something. What did you do? Well, I went to the preacher. I seemed if anyone were to be able to give some sort of advice as to what to do in this current predicament, it'd be a preacher. I went to him and I appeared before him, and he turned a most deathly shade of white. I would have thought that being a preacher and all, he would have a familiarity with the creatures of the post-life. But no, he was shocked. But there was nothing he could do for me either. His inclination was that if I had not found myself in the Heavenly Father above's home, nor had I found myself in the blazing fires of the pits of hell, then I was beyond the helping of the preaching class. So I got on the train. Turns out if you're a ghost, you don't need a ticket on account of you can't take up a seat. And from there, I've been wandering the earth. You must have seen so much. I've seen my fair share, but I mostly like to keep it myself. I understand that inclination. You are a somewhat extraordinary example. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's mighty kind of you to say. I just try to, as I say, mind my own business, keep it myself. What are you going to do with this here recording? Well, I'm going to play it to people so they can fall asleep.
Like some sort of wireless recording.
Yeah. And someone will listen to that while they're falling asleep, you reckon? I try not to think about that too much.
Well, power to you, son. I've seen all sorts of occupations for people as times have changed. And I must say that telling a story for someone to go to sleep to, that seems as noble a profession as any to me.
Thank you. You're very polite.
As I said, keep myself to myself, mind my P's and Q's, keep my manners. My mama taught me well.
She certainly did. Where to from here?
I'm just gonna keep wandering the earth. Anytime you hear a faint jingle of spurs, but you can't see nobody, just know old Whispering Pete's nearby. I don't mean you no harm. If I see opportunity to do so, I do my best to help you out. But I must admit, I am somewhat limited in my capabilities. But we've all got our limitations. And I feel like even if we all understand those, if we still try to do our best, well, that'll make the world something of a better place.
That was an Omnibus Edition of Sleepy Time Mumbles, featuring Season 4, Episode 6, In Conversation with a Gentleman Caller. Also featuring Season 2, Episode 14, In Conversation with Your PE Teacher. And finally, Season 1, Episode 4, In Conversation with the Ghost of Whispering Pete. Sleepy Time Mumbles is a production of Noosed Octopus, Theatre, etc. It's created and it's hosted by me, Dan Bain. You can follow the show on a social media, and you can subscribe to things all via the links in the show notes. Until next time, good night. Sleep tight.